Hello, everybody. It's Simon Dixon here, and I have just come from the gym on a Sunday morning, and I had a few random thoughts. So I thought I'd go live and share some thoughts that I've been having while here in San Francisco. So, firstly, it's a mixed emotion. What I'm seeing here in San Francisco is such amazing innovation. Obviously, when we go to places like Palo Alto, been meeting some of our portfolio companies and some of the companies that have been building the crypto industry from San Francisco and the Valley. And it's, at the moment we're celebrating 10 years in the crypto securities business at Bank to the Future. And Bitcoin has been around for over 10 years now. So on one hand, I've got this massive amount of gratitude to what we've achieved as a community. I mean, what a truly amazing time to be alive in financial history. We've actually created a parallel financial system. I remember, before Bitcoin was created and at Bank to the Future, we had a vision to try and create a non-fractional reserve bank way back in 2010. I remember meeting, the regulators and different people. They said that we were going to need $60 million of capex just on reserves and $30 million to build infrastructure. And then they told us that we're probably going to have to retire from the board and hire executives that have experience at building banks. And yet, Bitcoin came along and created this whole infrastructure that entrepreneurs can now build, and you don't have to participate in the non-fractional reserve banking system or the fractional reserve banking system. We now have choices, which is an incredible achievement. The world can now own their own money, spend their own money, and there is this sound money, there's monetary policy that rewards the saver rather than the debtor like traditional fiat money does. And yet, at the same time, you see when you come to places like San Francisco, you can't help but be humbled at some of the challenges that you experience out here. So San Francisco is one of those places where you see, this incredible wealth that's been generated in places like Silicon Valley through technology companies. Some of the wealth that, the largest amounts of wealth that's been generated in the world. And yet, at the same time, you have this vast population of unbanked homeless people sharing, the same streets, and homelessness on a scale that I've never seen before. And when I was on the treadmill this morning, it makes me start to think: what are some of the solutions that the crypto industry and the technology industry can come at to tackle some of these issues? We now have the ability to bank the unbanked through crypto, but there's immense challenges. We made amazing progress over the bear market. So, summarizing the last 10 years, you had Bitcoin that came along and as our world's best shot at achieving sound money, gives everyone the ability that has access to the internet to be able to own their own money, spend their own money, and gain benefits from, a fixed money supply and the effect that has as more and more utility comes to Bitcoin. At the same time, you've had over the last 3 years this amazing thing that came out of the crypto bear market, which is DeFi, which is mainly built upon Ethereum, and giving access for the people, for even centralized, not just decentralized finance, but we're seeing one financial product at a time disrupting traditional finance. You can now have savings. You can now use your crypto as collateral in order to access a stable coin loan, which can then be used in more and more different places. You're seeing these amazing things that are encouraging people to participate in this new parallel financial ecosystem. And is that one day and how long going to actually be used to unbank the bank? Unbank the bank. But that's one thing you can do, unbank the bank, but also bank the unbanked is like the catchphrase that we're often used. And the answer to that right now is we've got so much more to achieve. I can sit here and discuss what's been achieved over the last 10 years, but really we've got so much further to go. When I look around at Silicon Valley, I can't help but feel like there's a failure from the government. It's one thing when you have ginormous wealth being made, and incredible homelessness and poverty in the same street. That's one thing, and then you could have a question about the way that money is organized in the system. But when everybody is also paying incredibly high tax, that means that there's something wrong with the system. And as we know, fractional reserve banking is the world's largest regulated Ponzi scheme. Traditional fiat money is the world's largest regulated Ponzi scheme. And that is causing a real disparity and a failure by governments, because everybody is paying high tax. Massive amounts of interest are going into the banking industry, and you have this ginormous, rich-poor divide, where government's role is supposed to be, filling in with market failures and redistributing wealth where capitalism may not necessarily distribute that wealth or have market failures. So my random thoughts today really is that I think there's more that we can do as a crypto industry. I think there's a lot more that's going to come over the next decade from technology that can actually have an impact in many of these issues, rather than everybody complaining to the government saying you're spending our tax incorrectly, you need to reallocate it more, which is a very disempowering emotion. I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that. That's obviously their role. But what's more empowering is the question of what can we do as an industry, as a community? What technology can we create to tackle these things? How can, the fact of the matter is that none of these homeless people have a QR code. None of them know how to access the internet necessarily in order to get a wallet or get a phone or get any of these things. They're focused purely on survival at the moment. But what solutions can we as financial technologists come up with as a community to actually really stop having to complain to the government about their failures and how they're allocating money in tax collection? So really, two really parallel thoughts. Firstly, complete gratitude to what we've achieved as a community. Bitcoin is this incredible phenomenon that's just created a mountain of financial innovation around it. And Ethereum is really tackling building all of these different, decentralized financial products and combining that with entrepreneurs creating some more centralized financial products that allows us to achieve one step at a time the disruption and alternatives outside of the banking system for every single financial product. But at the same time, a bit of overwhelm in terms of what we still have to achieve as a community and how little impact we have had up to this point and how much further there is to go. So really that leads to two great opportunities that us as a community can look at, which is how do we as the crypto community create technology and products that can serve more of the world and bring on more adoption into this alternative financial system. And secondly, how can we, the amazing opportunities that creates for investors that want to invest in these people building such technology and servicing these new things. So I believe that as the traditional financial system regulated Ponzi scheme starts to unfold itself and we have the next systemic risk event that triggers a global financial crisis, more and more people need to know that there are options, and hopefully we're not all correlated to this point. And how can we as a community make sure that we're bringing more to the world and contributing more? Now, let's hope that we just don't create this immense, same system, but just build upon sound money. Maybe entrepreneurs, now that money is programmable, now that people can create incredible solutions, and yet as an industry, we're all arguing about, Bitcoin, excuse me, Bitcoin maximalism versus whether someone should create, something based upon another blockchain, and all these really petty arguments, because we have to remember as a community that when we're arguing and infighting over these silly things, because we're all bag holders in certain cryptocurrencies, and we're trying to push our bag in order to, push an agenda that we might have. Just remember that there's a much bigger picture here, and that bigger picture is what crypto was when it really originally started. When it originally started, when I went to those early Bitcoin conferences, it was us versus the banks. And when we can get back to us versus the banks, we can create solutions that make banks more honest, that makes fiat currencies more honest, as well as providing alternatives. And I'd like to see the community converge more upon that original, vision of unifying around getting. There's so much that we have to build, and there's so many investment opportunities around rebuilding that traditional financial system. So these are the types of things that I think about when I'm on the treadmill in San Francisco. But just putting out the complete gratitude towards the crypto community, but at the same time, let's stretch ourselves, let's push ourselves, and let's bring to the world the impacts that I'm pretty sure that I know that Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto community can have. So that's over and out. Sorry if it's a bit of a jumbling mess and on my shaky phone, but I like to just push out these random thoughts in a busy environment when I don't have much time to pull out the tripod and get everything professional. And in the week, I'm often too busy to actually do some of these things. So that's over and out, and I'll see you in the next content. Let me know. Please do retweet. Please do like. Please do share if you like this. Add your comments and let me know what your thoughts are, what you're working on, and what you'd like to see in future videos. Thank you.